Today, I've collected every scrap, every bit, and every detail about Digital Circus Episode 5 in order to hopefully put together a picture of what the episode may look like before it releases, which is in a few days. I'm on a time crunch, let's go. First of all, I want to dispel any rumors about the possibility of someone abstracting during Episode 5, and I can say definitively no one will abstract during this episode. If I end up being wrong, I will take full responsibility for that, because while I might not be a time traveler, I can go onto Gooseworx Tumblr page, which is basically just a time capsule of every question ever asked about this series, and on that Tumblr page, someone asked this question and was met with the answer that Episode 5 would be, quote, the silly before the storm, end quote. Now, this is not me saying that Episode 5 won't have dark moments, more about the trailer later, but instead that when looking at the series as a whole, this episode will be relatively light. So boom, write that down for number 1. Episode 5 probably won't make you cry. However, this is Gooseworx, nothing is ever that simple. Let's take a closer look. Examining Gooseworx' other Tumblr replies, along with some specific frames from the trailer, tells us that this episode will have some angry moments. We can first assume that these angry moments will likely be between Jax and Ragatha. The first hint that we got about this was from a question that Gooseworx answered asking about Episode 5 once again, which they answered by saying, quote, I said Episode 5 is the Ragatha episode. That's still mostly true, but it's probably a bit more accurate to say that Ragatha and Jax share Episodes 5 and 6 equally, end quote. Given that this is the case, it would make a lot of sense for most of the conflict to be involving those two. This is hinted at even further by the recent trailer, which shows a few frames shared by Jax, Ragatha, and a small percentage of Pomni, with Jax becoming more angry as the frames progress and his eyes moving to face Ragatha. Maybe she said something he didn't like? We also know that Jax is likely going to be unhappy from the get-go with most of the places that they visit throughout the episode. And yes, the episode is a split adventure, my YouTube short was wrong, I know. But consulting Goose's Tumblr once again, we'll find a particularly astute question from Mr. Banana Milk, obviously, asking for a random line from Episode 5, and Gooseworx provided the line, democracy sucks. I don't know about you, but there's only one person I could imagine saying that line, and it's Gangle. Yeah, definitely not. It's Jax, obviously. He's upset about the fact that nobody probably wanted to go on that safari adventure, which would explain why Jax is the only one present, with a very wide grin, I might add, in any teasers involving the safari. Actually, speaking of that, some people have pointed out that this teaser on thewackywatch.com has Gangle in it, you know, red ribbons, but I'm not entirely convinced. Gangle's ribbons are usually more reflective than this in any other scene. I'm not ruling it out, just being skeptical. Anyway, after Jax complains about the vote not being in his favor, it's possible that Caine tries to appease everyone by sending them on the various adventures. It's also possible that they're being sent separately. I say this because this scene right here contains a very presidential looking Pomni next to a slightly less presidential looking Jax. Is that a safari outfit I see? Another important thing to mention here is that Caine's malfunctioning AI could possibly play a role. There have been a lot of theories floating around recently on places like Reddit that point out that Caine's AI has been acting weird after the therapy session with Zooble. If you recall, it was during this therapy session in which Caine confronts the possibility that he might be doing a bad job at making the adventures fun.
What you're saying could imply that I'm bad at the only thing I'm good at, and that...
And then at the end of Episode 4, he glitches out just a little bit.
Such a good...
And yet another bit of evidence to support the AI theory is this teaser, also on the Wacky Watch, which contains a GIF, not GIF, of Caine looking up at the rotating camera and some Morse code that translates to SOS, CQD, I am losing my mind, also hi. So that's really the two main possibilities. He's either sending them separately to appease them, or because his AI is glitching out. Going into this episode, it's important to keep in mind that because this episode is gonna be the silly before the storm, it's gonna be the episode that lays a lot of the foundation for whatever conflict happens in future episodes. But that's not all. Let's take a final look at the trailer. The quality is really bad in order to mimic early YouTube videos, so we're gonna have to go frame by frame for some parts to analyze it properly. To keep it short, we first see some basic things like Kinger in the softball field, a strange animal thing, and a neutral looking Pomni next to an oddly happy looking Jax, to name a few. At this point, the trailer switches from still images to videos, and we get to see a lot more emotional moments. In this one right here, Jax looks a little upset and seems to be complaining, and again here, he looks almost sad. It's not something we see a lot from him. We also get to see him being given corn, which he seems to dislike a lot. But perhaps most interestingly of all, we learn that they're playing against their own doppelgangers in softball. They all seem to have very different personalities compared to their normal counterparts, with these versions of Pomni and Ragatha seeming aggressive and taunting, which isn't like them at all, and this version of Jax seeming very small and sad, which isn't like him at all. Gangle is also notably absent and was replaced by Orbsman, and perhaps most importantly of all, we get to see Gangle laugh. Personally, I'm pretty happy about that. Anyway, that's enough analyzing. I need to take a nap. Have a good day.